Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a video here with the one and only CTV reporter who has a backbone, Vasi Kapellos, who grills this fool here. This is Bill Blair. He's the defense minister, formerly the emergency preparedness minister, whatever the title is. Yeah, so she grills him on two things. First, defense spending, this magical 2% number that they always are striving to hit, but never seem to hit, and the ArriveCan app. And the answers are very, very interesting, to say the least.
Canada will give our allies more indication of our future spending intentions that will bring us much closer to that target of 2%.
Okay, you said a lot there, so I want to make sure that our audience understands, because the initial comment or initial response from you was around the 2% target was not yet. Does that mean, quite bluntly, that your government at some point intends to hit that target? The
Prime Minister in Vilnius in June of last year said that Canada was committed to working towards the target, and we are. And I think I was able to demonstrate to our allies today that Canada is in a very positive upward trajectory in its defense spending. You know, we also face significant challenges, our procurement processes, and when you're spending Canadian taxpayer dollars, it's important that we spend them well and wisely and carefully. But I was able to demonstrate to our allies and to also share with Canadians.
That's absolute liberal nonsense. It's just funny because she talks about the ArriveCan afterwards, which is proving the exact opposite. Liberals just wasting money left, right, center.
Respectfully, Minister, when you say that the Prime Minister made that commitment, certainly Canada signed on to what was agreed to at Vilnius, but the reporting around it has been completely to something quite different. In fact, that the Prime Minister privately conveyed to people at NATO that Canada would never meet that 2% target. I know that you're making the argument that spending is going up, but that's very different from...
Look at his face. He looks like a little boy who's like put in the corner with the dunce cap on.
From an argument that you're going to, at some point, meet the 2% target. Your government, your predecessor actually, never ever was that unequivocal. Are you saying tonight that your government intends to meet 2% at some point?
What I've said is we've committed to significantly increase defense spending. We've also acknowledged and signed on to the defense target of 2%.
She's tough as nails, and she's not taking that, Bill. You got to answer straight, man.
Capabilities. Just for example, a couple of months ago, we made the acquisition of 16 new multi-mission aircraft.
So he goes on to ramble about this investment, that investment, blah, blah, blah.
NORAD modernization project, our national shipbuilding strategy. I also have to make sure that we have the pilots, the sailors, the soldiers.
The butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers.
in order to use that equipment well and to deliver on those capabilities.
Minister, certainly I acknowledge the challenges that you face in staffing and the investments that have been made so far. But the question is around whether or not your government plans to hit that 2% target and to articulate a time by which you intend to do that. Is that what you are telling Canadians tonight you will do? Because nobody in your government previously has ever said that.
And Vashi, I'm not making a pronouncement because we've got some decisions to make with respect to how fast we can go and how far we can go.
That's a no.
Given the current fiscal environment.
Trudeau's more interested in investing in the Ukraine piggy bank fund.
I want to turn, Minister, to something that's generated a lot of reaction this week domestically, the Auditor General's report into ArriveCan. She said of the various agencies that were involved in that app, including the CBSA, which you oversaw at the time as Public Safety Minister, that there was a, quote, glaring disregard for basic management practices, and that she couldn't even conclusively say that the app cost $60 million because so few financial records exist. Were you ever made aware during your time as minister that something was not right with this app?
No, unfortunately not. I can tell you, even well before the pandemic, the CBSA had indicated a plan to develop an app, and the costs were actually much lower than is currently being described. But at no time was information provided to my ministry or frankly to us about with respect to those expenditures. When the well-established procurement processes, there are checks and balances in those processes, and when they're not followed, it is important that people be held to account. I'm actually very grateful for the work of the Auditor General and look forward to the work of CBSA and the RCMP to make sure that where processes weren't followed appropriately, that people are held to account.
So you weren't informed, Minister, as Public Safety Minister, Why didn't you ask? Why didn't you ask about the cost ballooning? Why didn't you ask to see the records? Why didn't you ask about a paper trail at any time? You were the minister ultimately responsible for 60 million taxpayer dollars that have seemed to generate zero value for Canadians.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And the information with respect to those expenditures and how they were being spent was not shared with me at the time when I was the minister.
Did you ask for it?
What's that?
Did you ask for it?
Frankly, there was no indication that those expenditures were taking place. The normal procurement procedures should have, if they had been followed, allowed for a proper accounting of those expenditures.
How can you not know if you're in charge of a department? I'm sorry, that's not how that works. If you have some big project, say you have 3 or 4 big projects at a company, you're going to make sure each one of those babies gets to the finish line, as they would say in the corporate world. You're not going to be like, oh, I didn't have no idea. I was too busy watching MASH. Like, do, 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 do. Like, come on, Matlock. This is ridiculous. You don't know what's going on in your own department. This guy is so corrupt.
My understanding is that did not take place, and that information, therefore, was not shared up the chain.
Respectfully, though, when you saw that the app was not developing as it had been outlined it could, did you ever think, I should ask what's going on with this thing, how much it's costing taxpayers, why things aren't going the way that they should?
The inflated costs were not shared with the ministry at that time. That information subsequently came out as a result of that work was done, first of all, at CBSA and then subsequently by the Auditor General. That information is deeply concerning, and that information should have been shared.
Ultimately, do you bear some responsibility, though, as minister who oversaw the CBSA at this time, for not ensuring there was value for taxpayer money? I understand the information, as you put it, wasn't shared with you, but you didn't ask to see it.
Well, frankly, I don't believe it was shared with the president of CBSA either, and therefore there is obviously important accountability that must take place.
That's ridiculous. You're saying that you didn't know, and the guy under you, who's even more involved in the department, didn't know. That's bull crap, man. What kind of department are you running? Both of you should be fired if that's the case. Like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
I understand that there are individuals who may, and I'm going to be careful here, have engaged in misconduct. Ultimately, Vashi, I always accept my responsibility as the minister, but at the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge if information is not shared up through a management chain and people are engaged in misconduct, when that misconduct is determined and detected and evidence of it is available, then people need to be held to account.
Somebody's a little bit nervous is give me a break, man. If you've got an app that you're developing, it's the only app that the government is developing, and your boss Trudeau comes over and asks you, well, how's that app going, right? You know, Trudeau steps over and he's like, like, you're gonna have to have an answer for that. You're gonna have to have an answer for him. You're like, oh, I have no idea, I'm too busy watching MASH in my office. Like, really? You don't know anything that's going on in your department. Nothing. And the guy that's under you, he doesn't know anything either, because both you guys are busy watching MASH. Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This guy is so useless. He's a worthless waste of $300,000 he's getting paid per year. It's time to retire. It's time to go off into the sunset, Bill Blair. We've had enough. Canadians have had enough of you. So I want to say a big thanks here to Vasi for actually having a backbone at CTV. I don't know. I guess that's why they call her show Power Play. She's the only one with a backbone. Is that how that works? I don't know why they let her ask real questions and hard questions, but it is very telling that this is now on mainstream media now. They're asking about the Rive scam. They're pushing it now. This is cracking open. This nut is just cracking wide open. And I don't think Trudeau and his minions, they're like little rats scurrying around. There's cats everywhere. When the cats are away, the mice come out to play. Well, the cats are still here and the mice are out of the nest and they can't get back in time. That's what's happening. They're scurrying everywhere. They don't know what's going on. I don't even know what that analogy means, but it means something. Trudeau's in trouble. That's what's going on here. All his ministers, they're all in trouble. What I think is going to happen, they're all going to point blame at Cameron McDonald and Tonio Utano. They're both going to take the fall for this because they've already revoked their security clearance. When I think they're just two pawns that are part of it. They were probably getting some kickbacks, $500,000 each or whatever it is, but I'm sure a bunch of these fools are all involved in this ArriveCan scam. They probably thought, hey, maybe we can just use this easy way to scam $1 million each off the taxpayers and flush our pockets, and it backfired. Time will tell. I know Larry Brock and all the crew there will crack this wide open and keep at it. So that's all I've got for you on this episode. Thanks everyone for stopping by, watching the video. I appreciate all of you. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications so you get my videos when they get posted. Be sure to stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.